They didn't burn you out by accident. They designed it that way. I want you to count how many of these statements feel true. You've skipped celebrations for work. You feel worth more if you work more. Your stress feels normal. You think working hard will eventually pay off with rest and freedom. Now, if you recognized yourself in any of these, you've been manipulated by corporate psychology. It's not personal failure. It's a system designed to colonize your identity and squeeze out maximum productivity. In this video, you'll get concrete strategies to reclaim your psychological sovereignty without blowing up your career. Your brain on burnout looks disturbingly similar to your brain on trauma. That foggy feeling, the stress headaches, the emotional volatility, they're not just signs of fatigue, they're signs of neurological restructuring. When you push through lunch, stay up replying to emails at midnight, or normalize 10-hour days, your brain isn't adapting, it's breaking down. Your very ability to recognize burnout is being shut down by burnout itself, but you can fight back. One proven technique: box breathing. It's a simple science-backed practice that lowers cortisol and re-engages the prefrontal cortex. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4. Just 5 minutes a day can interrupt the stress spiral and give your brain a fighting chance to recalibrate. Burnout isn't just about being tired, it's about being neurologically subdued. But awareness is the first act of resistance, and every conscious breath you take is a step toward reclaiming your mind. Next, we're going to talk about identity colonization. Neurological subduing is just phase 1 of the corporate takeover. The real genius move is they've convinced you that your job title is your personal identity. Think about it with me for a second. When someone at a party asks, "What do you tell them about your hobbies and passions, or do you immediately tell them about your job?" Your answer reveals exactly how successful their identity colonization has been. This is identity colonization, the slow erasure of who you are outside of what you produce. After rewiring your brain's reward system, the system claims ownership of your identity. Your profession becomes your personality. Your value becomes your productivity. Language like "we're a family" or "be a team player" isn't benign. It's a psychological tactic to make leaving, resting, or saying no feel like betrayal. And when self-sacrifice is celebrated, skipping birthdays, working through illness, it reinforces the idea that your worth is measured by how much of yourself you're willing to give away. Performance reviews rarely reward balance. The highest praise often goes to those who have fully fused their identity with their job. And honestly, that's the trap. Once your self-worth is tied to your output, control becomes easy. Threaten the job, and you threaten the self. This is why job loss hits so hard. It's not just income, it's identity collapse. Who are you without the title? What's your value if you're not performing? So how do you reclaim yourself? Start with one simple, powerful act. Craft a non-work identity statement. Write 2 to 3 sentences about who you are without referencing your job. Start with "I'm someone who values," or "I feel most myself when," and read it aloud every day. Let it remind you, you are more than your metrics. You are not your job. You never were. They just convinced you otherwise, and remembering who you are is the first step toward freedom. Next is the gaslighting playbook. If you've ever felt guilty for setting a boundary at work, that's not weakness, it's the result of strategic gaslighting. Corporate culture has mastered the art of shifting blame. It teaches you to see structural failures as personal shortcomings. You're overwhelmed by unrealistic deadlines. You need better time management. Burned out from 8 hours of back-to-back meetings? Well, that must be a prioritization problem. Meanwhile, they hand you a meditation app and call it wellness, even as they expect 10 p.m. emails. That's not self-care, that's performative wellness, the corporate version of putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. 1 in 5 working adults need time off due to stress-induced mental health struggles, and yet, when you finally call in sick, you're met with sighs and subtle shame. You end up apologizing for basic self-care because guilt has been engineered into the system. The most dangerous lie? The myth of someday. Sacrifice now, they say, and you'll earn rest later. But that promised land keeps moving because burnout isn't a bug, it's a feature of the system. Here's how to break the illusion. Use reverse journaling. Each day, write down what went wrong, then ask, would this still be my fault if the system were healthy? This reframes burnout as a systems issue, not a personal failure. Over time, it helps rebuild your internal compass. Because the truth is, most people aren't handling it. They're breaking quietly or planning their escape. And the longer you buy into the myth that your struggle is a personal flaw, the longer the system keeps winning. You're not the problem. The environment is, and awareness is your first act of resistance. But how do you begin to resist a system built to burn you out? Well, you start by taking back control over what you can. Your energy, your boundaries, and your definition of success. This is your resistance protocol. First, budget your energy like currency. Track what drains you, what restores you, and cut out the emotional overdrafts you've come to normalize. Next, set boundaries with clarity and confidence. Start with a simple phrase. I value our work and my contribution, and I need insert boundary here to maintain my performance. Boundaries aren't confrontational, they're self-preservation. Finally, redefine success. Stop measuring your worth by the hours you grind. Start tracking what actually matters, your focus, your emotional presence, your ability to show up without collapsing. This isn't just self-help, it's strategic resistance. And every small act of sovereignty brings you closer to psychological freedom. People who've successfully rejected burnout culture share one trait: psychological sovereignty, a sense of self no longer tied to productivity metrics. Real freedom begins when you remember your identity is not your job title. Here's how you start reclaiming it today. Step 1 is to create your non-work identity. Write 2 to 3 sentences about who you are outside of work. Use prompts like I am someone who values or I feel most myself when. Read it aloud each day. Let it remind you you are more than your metrics. Step 2 is implement boundaries. Start small. Say no to one extra task this week. Take a real break, not just a rushed lunch. Show yourself that you're allowed to exist outside of performance. And 3, reverse journal. At the end of each stressful day, ask, would this still be my fault if the system were healthy? This reframes burnout as a systemic failure, not a personal one. If you're ready to reclaim your story and even see yourself in a new form, click the link. I'm bringing real people into my next videos as animated characters, so let's make this message visible and personal.